So I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Kim. I'm the owner of Fleurty Wick Candle. We are a private label manufacturer located north of Atlanta. And tonight we're going to talk about custom client requests for private labeling. So if you have a private label company or you're looking to put private label into your arsenal of things that you offer your clients, then this would be something that would be of interest to you. So the first thing we want to talk about is the client vision. So when you're meeting with your client and you're talking to them about their project and what they're wanting you to manufacture for them, it's really important that you listen to the client and set the expectation from the beginning, because most of the time the problem comes in when you have not set the expectation and then the client comes in after the fact and they're expecting one thing and you're delivering something else and there's a communication gap. A lot of that can be resolved through a manufacturing contract if that's something that you're interested in. I personally don't do manufacturing contracts unless it's a client that either has a very large order that's going to go on for a period of time. So if they're ordering, if we have a long-term partnership where they're going to be ordering a lot, or if it's a one-off thing, then no, you just place your order on the website and keep it moving. But if it's a client that is placing product in a store or they have a large platform and this is something that they're adding to their revenue source, then yes, we want a manufacturing agreement in place, and we also want a non-disclosure in place so that everyone is covered and no one's doing anything they're not supposed to do. And within that manufacturing agreement, that's where you're able to specify what the expectations should be in terms of your production timelines, in terms of if you're working with deposits. I don't do deposits. I require them to pay 100% up front. But if you require a deposit, that's on you. If you're, for instance, I have some clients that will send their vessels and their, if we're doing room sprays and things like that, they will send those things to me and we produce based off of what they send. So I need to have that at a certain time prior to. Well, thank you, Don. You're always so supportive. I appreciate you. And thank you for coming on the candle side of TikTok. If they are purchasing the materials that you need for you to fulfill, then you need to have those items in place at the warehouse at a certain date in order to meet their fulfillment date. So all of that stuff needs to be spelled out in the manufacturing agreement. Now, of course, if you are purchasing everything for the client, then of course it's on you to make sure that you have everything. But it's really key, if the client is sending you their own vessels or the client is sending you their own bottles and or whatever, to make sure that that stuff is in place in time for you to complete the project. Because if not, it's going to be a situation, because you can't do what you have to do unless you have the stuff. And if they don't know when you need to have the stuff, then it just creates a mess. So that's the most important thing in terms of setting expectations. Any customizations as it pertains to scent or boxes or any of that stuff, I normally always send a mock-up. So we don't always send a prototype of the candle or of the product, but I always send a mock-up, and so that way they can see. And you can create a mock-up. I really just use Illustrator to do it. I take the actual vessel, put it in Illustrator, place the label on the vessel, and also create a mock-up of the box, and I send that to them so they have a visual of what it looks like. If you have a client that wants a mock-up of the vessel, an actual prototype of the vessel, you can do that as well. The only thing is, if there's a special label, so if you have like a linen label or a label that's gold foiled and it's run through twice, because you can do gold foil with a black overlay, then you can't get a mock-up of that without it costing you like $80 for one label, because they have to make a plate. So for those types of labels, I just tell them I can put a regular label on it so you can see what it looks like, but it won't be the actual label because that's a run. So that's a minimum of 150, 200 labels. So I can't get one. So, and again, that's an expectation that you have to make sure you advise the client, no, I cannot get one label if it's gold foil. I can give you a mock-up, or I can give you a regular label with the, a regular vessel with the label on it so you can see what it looks like. But there should never be an expectation that they're going to get that label with the mock-up. It's just not going to happen. In terms of samples and prototypes and stuff like that, I charge. So if the client wants to see the actual candle and burn the candle, then that's retail price for the candle, because that's one candle. Unless I have a relationship with the client. Now, if I have a relationship with the client, and this is my client and someone that I have produced product for over time, then I don't have a problem giving them a candle. But don't get into the habit of every time someone asks you for a quote, giving them a candle, because there's no guarantee that you're going to get the business. And now you're spending time making all these candles and you don't even know if you're going to get the sale. So I don't do that. If you want a candle, you need to buy it. And that just keeps everybody. And again, it's setting the expectation, because there shouldn't be an expectation that you're going to get anything for free. It's just, I'm running a business. I'm not running a nonprofit. So, yeah. The other thing is client check-ins. I don't normally have clients when we're in the middle of production that contact me for updates, because our production time is is short. I mean, it's 7 to 10 business days. So by the time you want to update, we're finished. So I don't really have a lot of clients. I've had a couple of clients that want daily updates. That's disruptive as far as I'm concerned. If you have a client that wants an update, I would recommend that you request that those updates be given weekly. That way you're not getting consistent phone calls during the day asking for an update, because that just disrupts your flow, your workflow, and your production, and it just doesn't work. Just take my word for it. I've been there and I've done that. Let's see. Any final approval or packaging or anything like that, you want to make sure before you go into production that the client is fine with everything. If it's a custom sent, something that either the client has created or something that we've created for them, I would suggest doing a test candle for that. Because there have been situations where, and I don't normally create a product without, if it's a custom blend, I don't create it without them smelling it first. Because what my preference is for the client to come into the showroom, if they're going to create their own custom scent, then I let them do that. Once they've finished that creation, then I make that in a larger batch. And then once that batch is made, I create the candle so they can burn the candle. Of course, they're paying for this though. Create the candle so they can burn the candle so they're okay with it. Because if you get a client that wants something like a lavender eucalyptus, and I always tell people that eucalyptus is going to overpower the lavender. So we don't want to do a 1-to-1 ratio. We want to do like a 3-to-1 ratio, like a touch of lavender, a touch of eucalyptus. But they may want it to be more eucalyptus than lavender. So it may be a 1-to-2 ratio or a 2-to-1 ratio, with either one. But they need to smell that before you go into producing 500 candles. And then they get it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't want it to smell like this. I want it to smell more lavender. So now you have to do the whole thing over. So if it's a custom blend, let them create it. Do the prototype, let them burn it, make sure they're good with it. And then keep in mind too, my preference for a sample is the actual candle that they're getting, not a small one. Because when you're producing these little tins and these little candles, it's not going to burn the same. And this is not what they're buying. If they're buying a full-size candle, then the sample needs to be a full-size candle so that they know how it's going to burn in the room. The other part of that is educating the client, because they will ask you for a small candle for 2 reasons. One, they don't want to pay for the large candle, and 2, they want a sample. But there's a candle to room ratio. So if you have a small candle, it's not gonna put scent in the entire room because it's too small. If it's a large room with high vaulted ceilings, or it's a very large space, then you need several candles in that space to fill the space. Sometimes, my stuff not so much, because I know what I'm doing. But you still need to have a regular size candle so that they understand what that candle is going to burn like when the client gets it, and then they've burned it, so they know. And a lot of it's just educating, because there are a lot of factors that go into play, whether it's 100% soy or a para-soy blend. If it's 100% soy, that candle is going to burn much softer. It's not going to be, this punch of scent like a paraffin candle will. And most people will ask you for, most people that are wanting their own product, they're going to ask you for 100% soy. And what I ask them is, what are you burning now? Because if you're buying from Bath and Body Works, you're not burning 100% soy, you're burning a soy blend. And that soy blend not only has different types of waxes in it, but it also has a whole bunch of additives in it, because no one reads these labels. So if you get a candle from Bath and Body Works, turn it over and read the label. There's stuff on there you can't even pronounce. Whereas the stuff that we're producing is the wax, the oil, and wick. That's it. The only other thing that would be in there is if it's going to be in a retail environment, we put a UV inhibitor in there if there's vanillin in the fragrance oil, because the candle will turn yellow under fluorescent lighting. So the UV inhibitor stops it from turning yellow in a retail environment, because what you don't want is to create a batch of candles for a client, and they're going to be in a retail setting or a store, and as soon as they put them in the cabinet after a day or two, they all turn yellow. And the client's going to freak out, because they're like, okay, these candles look horrible. And they do look horrible, but it doesn't affect the way the candle burns. But it doesn't matter, because once the client sees that it's yellow, they don't want them anymore. So now you have to redo the whole order. So that's the only time that we will put an additive into a candle, is if it's the UV inhibitor. And this is for anyone that lives in Florida or any retail space. So it's fluorescent lighting and direct lighting, specifically in Florida, where you need to put that UV inhibitor in the candle so it doesn't turn. But other than that, you don't have to put anything in it. But if it's a para-soy blend, that will be a very strong candle. If it's a straight paraffin candle, it will be a strong candle. If it's 100% soy, it is not. It's going to be much softer. So if they're accustomed to smelling Bath and Body Works or these Walmart Yankee cheap candles that you can smell down the street because it's got so much paraffin in it, and then yours don't smell like that, there's an opportunity for you to educate. Because if you're asking for 100% soy, it's just not going to perform the same way, because it's 100% soy. And then different fragrance oils burn differently. All fragrance oils are not created the same. Some of them burn stronger, some of them burn lighter. Like a lavender is a very light scent. It's very pretty, it's very light. If you want something strong, like a jasmine, they don't burn the same. The jasmine is very strong. Lavender is not. And so all of these things matter when you're creating, and again, setting the expectation for the client when you're doing custom orders, so that they understand what to expect, and they understand the process, and they understand what they're getting. Because when you don't do that, and then they get it, and they're disappointed, and they're mad with you, it's like, because you didn't have these conversations. Like, you really have to sit down and talk to them. Specifically when you're doing private label and you're creating a product for a client, it's important that you sit down not only to listen to their vision, but to level set with them on what they should expect and not expect. And just, again, so that they understand. Because once you explain things to people, they understand. It's just that when you don't explain it, and then now you have to answer their questions when you should have just set that expectation, that's what causes a problem. That's what I found. But, if you can explain it to the customer and give them a choice. Because again, back to this 100% soy business, everybody wants 100% soy because, you have all these horror stories on the internet about candles and how we need to save the environment and how we're breathing all these toxins and whatnot. But everybody's buying the toxins. But then when they want their own product, of course they want it to be less toxic, but it burns different. And so now what do you want? Do you want a candle that's safe for your environment and your nostrils? Or do you want a candle that smells? You got to make a choice. And so when you put it back in their court, and they make the decision. It's like, okay, if you want 100% soy, it's not going to burn as strong. It can't. It's a natural product. Or we can do a para blend, and the 6006 is all that I use. I love 6006, and I was using C3 when I first started. I love C3. C3 is very difficult to use. It's very temperamental, but I love it. My C3 smells like that 6006. I've mastered that C3, but I started using the 6006 and I started offering it to my clients. And now everybody wants a 6006 because, again, if you're selling a product, 9 times out of 10 you want a strong candle versus one that's 100% soy. And again, my argument to these people, not so much an argument, my supporting information is that what you're burning now is not 100% soy. Go home and read the bottom of the candle that you're burning. It's a blend. And if it's a blend, that means there's other things in there. It's not 100% soy. I don't know of any manufacturer that's using 100% soy, to be honest with you. I just don't know any. Yeah, that UV inhibitor, all it takes, like, because we've made so many candles, like I've made all the mistakes. When you see a candle that's done that for a client that you've made hundreds of candles for, and you have to redo them, yeah. And so what I do now, any client that I know that is going to be selling in a retail environment, I don't care if it has the vanilla in it or not, I'm putting it in there because I just don't want to have to do anything over. And all you're doing is, I get it from Flaming Candle. It's in a bag like flour, and I don't measure it. I just say, because normally we're doing large batches, so we're using the large pouring pots. I just take a teaspoon and I just chunk it in there and stir it up. I think it's a teaspoon per 60 ounces or something. I don't even know because I don't measure it, because that's how I cook. I don't measure. I just throw it. I just chunk it in there. But it works. I mean, it keeps them beautiful and white. They will not turn yellow. It's a UV inhibitor, and I know Flaming Candle has it because that's where I buy it. But that'll be a lifesaver because when you start producing for other people, you got to think about all those things, because if you have to redo an order that's a couple of hundred candles, that immediately hits your bottom line. So you don't want to have any problems with a candle. Let me see if there's any questions. I haven't been keeping up with the chat. I apologize. Let me see. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. And thank you guys for the likes and the little. I'm trying to learn how to do. I don't do a lot of TikTok lives. I'm trying to do better. So I don't even know what half of those things are. It's popping up on my screen. I just want to make sure that if you have any questions, I've answered, because I can kind of go on and on about private labeling until next week. I'm also, just so that you know, I'm finishing the ebook tonight. It's very good. I'm very excited about it because I've been working on it for a couple of years. Not literally, but I started it a couple of years ago. I just didn't finish it. I put it to the side. And so what I'm doing is, I'm sorry, you're looking for me. So all of my coaching and everything is on the website. If you go to my Instagram page at Fleurty Wick and hit that link, it'll take you to the website. So there's coaching on there for grants. There's coaching for LinkedIn pages. There's my candle workshop is on there. There's 2 candle workshops. There's a full day workshop that we can split into. It's hard to do it in one day. It's an 8-hour course, but I like to break it up. So we can break it up into 3 days, or you can do it in one day if you want. It doesn't matter. There's a marketing workshop on there, and then the ebook that I'm finishing, that's going to be on there tonight. And this, right now I'm at 120 pages. So there's probably going to be closer to 150 by the time I finish. But it's a lot. Like, there's a lot of information in there. It's a lot. So all of that stuff will be on the consolidated website. And the ebook basically answers all your questions as it pertains to scale. Because that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not really so much focusing on how to make a candle, because that's not, in my opinion, what you need to be focusing on. So I can teach you how to make a perfect candle, as close to perfect as possible, in about 10 minutes. You need to sell. You need to be able to sell. So if you can't sell, it doesn't matter if you have a perfect candle. It's just my opinion. So that is, I think that's all that I have on here for this today. I think that's it. Did you guys have any other questions? I think it's just you and I on here. I think everybody else left, because I don't think these are candle people on here. I think people just pop in and see what you're talking about, then they move on to something else. But let me know if you have any I'm trying to figure out what we're going to talk about next week. Because I try to pick different topics for each week that I think would be important for your business. And I'm also going to, oh girl, you're going to love this ebook. This ebook is the truth, like for real. Like I've not seen anything like it. That's why I started writing it in the first place. I wish I hadn't taken so long to do it, but it is what it is. And then I also have I have a podcast called Candles and Stuff. It's on YouTube and all of the other podcast platforms. Spotify is on there, and I'm going to do a better job at the podcast because admittedly I have not, because trying to find the time to videotape to record is like, yeah, crazy. But I'm going to do it. So there's that. Then there's also the TikTok and the YouTube. I try to put instructional videos on there to help people to learn and scale and stuff like that. So yes, that is all I have for tonight. If you don't have any questions, I can catch you all next week.